The Women's Tennis Association is in a state of total meltdown. The reality is that the biggest stars in the world are currently going broke just to stay live. We are uncovering a secret financial crisis that the WTA executives have tried to bury for years. While the world watches Elena Rybakina and Iga Swiatek lift trophies, the documents prove they are losing a fortune behind the scenes. The villain in this story is not a player or a coach. It is the WTA leadership, led by Steve Simon and Portia Archer, who have created a system of absolute negligence. They have left their biggest assets defenseless against a rising wave of stalkers and hostile crowds. Now, the top players are fighting back against a shadow economy that is draining their bank accounts to zero. The reality is that being a top 10 player in 2026 is no longer about wealth. It is about survival. For every dollar earned on the court, nearly 50 cents is being funneled into elite security details. This is the hidden tax that is bankrupting the sport's greatest heroes. The WTA leadership likes to brag about record-breaking prize money and equal pay, but the documents prove that this money never actually reaches the players' pockets. Instead, it goes to former special forces and private protection firms. Players like Elena Rybakina are being forced to hire their own personal armies just to walk from their hotels to the stadium. The WTA refuses to pay for this protection. They claim that tournament security is enough, but the players know that is a calculated lie. We have seen the reports of fans breaking into restricted areas. We have seen the evidence of stalkers following players across multiple continents. Emma Raducanu was hunted by a fixated individual through Dubai and Abu Dhabi. The system failed her completely. The WTA executives did nothing until the situation turned into a public nightmare. Even then, their response was a procedural failure designed to protect their own reputations. The reality is that the villain here is a corporate machine that values profit over human life. The cost of private security for a top player is staggering. We are talking about $1,000 to $3,000 per day for a single high-level guard. When you add in travel, lodging, and 24-hour surveillance, the bill becomes a death sentence for a player's finances. Top stars are carrying teams of 4 to 6 security personnel. That means a 2-week tournament can cost a player over $50,000 in security alone. If they lose in the early rounds, they actually lose money for the week. They are paying to work. The WTA leadership knows this, but they refuse to intervene. They would rather spend money on marketing and executive bonuses than on a central security fund. This is a manipulative tactic to keep the players dependent on the tour. But the players are finally waking up to the deceit. The hero of this story is the modern player who is speaking out against this exploitation. They are tired of being the victims of a system that ignores their safety. Iga Swiatek has repeatedly mentioned the crushing pressure and the lack of privacy. The documents prove that the WTA's threat matrix is nothing more than a PR stunt. They claim to monitor social media for threats, but they do nothing to stop those threats in the real world. It is a band-aid on a bullet wound. The reality is that the WTA executives are more concerned with their gambling partners than their players. Reports show that 40% of all abuse comes from angry gamblers. Yet the WTA continues to take money from the same industry that fuels these attacks. It is a disgusting cycle of greed. The villain is literally profiting from the misery and fear of the players. Steve Simon and Portia Archer have presided over a total collapse of player welfare. The recent investigation into Elena Rybakina's former coach, Stefano Vukov, is just the tip of the iceberg. The documents show that the WTA ignored reports of abuse for years. They allowed a toxic environment to fester while Rybakina suffered in silence. When they finally acted, it was too late, too little. They framed it as a success, but the reality was a massive procedural failure. The WTA's goal was to look like the hero, but they are clearly the villain. They let the situation reach a breaking point before they even lifted a finger, and now they expect the players to be grateful. The reality is that the industry is starting to distance itself from this leadership. Major sponsors are asking questions about where the money is going. The players are beginning to organize and demand a seat at the table. They're done with the lies and the manipulative tactics. The cost of security is not just financial, it's emotional. Players are living in constant fear. They cannot go to dinner. They cannot walk in a park. They are prisoners of their own success, and the WTA is the jailer. By refusing to provide standardized elite protection, they are forcing players to go broke. This is a calculated move to keep the stars under the thumb of the executives. If a player is struggling financially, they are less likely to rebel. But this plan is backfiring. The heroes are finding their voices. They are exposing the shadow economy for what it really is. It is a system designed to extract every penny from the athletes while providing zero support. The financial evidence is undeniable. When you look at the tax returns and the expense reports, the truth comes out. Top stars are not living the high life. They are living in a fortress that they have to pay for themselves. The WTA leadership tries to frame this as the price of fame. That is a deceitful excuse for their own laziness. The reality is that other professional sports leagues provide security for their athletes. The NBA and NFL do not ask their stars to pay for their own bodyguards at sanctioned events. Only the WTA has this backward, broken system. It's a failure of leadership at the highest level. Steve Simon's era has been defined by one disaster after another. From the Cancun finals debacle to the security crisis of 2026, the pattern is clear. He is a man who is out of touch with the reality of the sport, and Portia Archer is continuing the same manipulative playbook. They speak about progress and empowerment in every press release, but their actions prove they don't care about the women they represent. The documents prove that the WTA's bank accounts are growing, while the players' accounts are shrinking. They are funneling prize money back into the system through fines and fees, and then they tell the players there is no budget for security. It's a blatant lie. The reality is the WTA has the money, they just choose not to spend it on the players. The industry is watching the downfall of this organization in real time. People are starting to realize that the WTA is a sinking ship. The players are the only reason anyone watches, yet they are treated like disposable tools. The bravery of the stars who are standing up is the only thing that can save the tour. They are the truth tellers in a room full of liars. Every time a player hires a private security firm, they are making a statement. They are saying that the WTA has failed them. They are saying that they don't trust the villain to keep them safe. The costs are unsustainable. If this continues, we will see top stars retiring early because they simply cannot afford to play. The financial ruin is coming for everyone. Even the champions of Grand Slams are feeling the pinch. The reality is that the WTA has created a pay-to-play system for safety. If you want to stay alive, you have to pay the toll, and that toll is half of your life's work. The manipulative executives thought they could hide this forever. They thought the players would stay quiet out of fear. But the hero always wins in the end. The truth about the bankrupted tennis stars is finally out. The shadow economy is being brought into the light, and the people responsible for this scandal are facing their own destruction. The documents prove the negligence. The facts prove the greed. The WTA leadership thought they'd destroy the players' independence, but they only destroyed their own credibility. The fans are waking up. The sponsors are waking up. The players are ready for a revolution. They will no longer be the victims of a broken tour. The era of the villain is coming to an end. The reality is, you cannot run a sport by bankrupting the people who play it. The WTA thought they could ignore the stalkers and the threats. They thought they could keep the prize money for themselves. But the house of cards is falling. The players are the heroes of this story, and they are taking their power back. They are demanding a tour that values their lives over its own bottom line. They are demanding an end to the private security tax, and they are demanding the resignation of the executives who let this happen. The industry is distancing itself from the toxic leadership. The downfall of the WTA as we know it is inevitable. The reality is that these stars have been fighting a war on two fronts. One front is on the court against their opponents. The other front is in the shadows against their own management. They have survived the stalkers. They have survived the hostile crowds, and they will survive the corporate greed of Steve Simon and Portia Archer. The documents show the struggle, but the players show the strength. The bankrupting of our tennis heroes is a stain on the history of the sport. It is a procedural failure that should have never happened. The reality is that the truth is the most powerful weapon in the world, and the truth is finally being told. The WTA thought they'd destroy the players, but they only destroyed themselves.